In 1902, the Stearns Lumber Company came here. Mr. Justice Stearns came here from Ludington, Michigan, and he was in search of new timberland, virgin timberland here. And he found 30,000 acres here on the Cumberland Plateau in southern Kentucky and brought his family's company here and purchased that land. He built the company town of Stearns, Kentucky, which is where we're located today as the new corporate headquarters for the lumber company, and built a rather elaborate company-owned town with all of the residences that were first class for the era, the traditional company store, the railroad station, the office buildings, and everything that was required for a fully functional town at the turn of the century. The Stearns Company built the Kentucky and Tennessee Railway. It was mainly used for hauling the cut trees or the logs up the hill from the valley, from the Big South Fork Valley, to the company's sawmill here. And actually, when they were building the railroad, they found vast quantities of coal here and promptly turned their attention to coal mining, changing the company's name from the Stearns Lumber Company to the Stearns Coal and Lumber Company. At the same time, shortly after the turn of the century, say about 1910 to 1915, they expanded their holdings out to encompass 200 square miles of land. That's a lot of land here. And along the railway, they established as many as 18 coal mining camps. These camps served the mines, gave the miners and their families a place to live, close to work. And on the furthest extent of the railroad, the company had the lumber camps, likewise with company-owned buildings. The Stearns Company actually flourished all the way up through the 1950s, employing as many as 2,200 people spread out along the railway in these company-owned towns. But beginning in the early 50s, the vast majority of the timber had been cut and the mines actually were depleted. So there was no more coal and no more timber to be had here in Stearns, Kentucky. So the Stearns Company actually began an era of decline, finally abandoning the entire operation about 1975. Today, however, the visitor can come here and experience what life was like for these people many years ago. At the Big South Fork Scenic Railway, we do our best to transport you back into the past. You can come into a nearly complete downtown business district for the Stearns Coal and Lumber Company as it would have appeared, say, in the 1930s or 1940s. Once you come into town, you can come into our newly refurbished railway depot, which was the actual first office buildings for the company, and the freight warehouse. And on a traditional day here in the 1990s, you can come in, listen to traditional bluegrass and country music with banjos, guitars, acoustic bass, and very good vocalists, some of our local talent here. And during the same time, when you purchase your ticket, listen to music, we have several gift shops here, including a homemade fudge shop. Also in the railway depot, we have the Whistle Stop Cafe, which is a full-service restaurant serving breakfast and lunch on most days and dinners on select evenings. Once you board the train, we're going to take you back into the past, take you down through Roaring Paunch Creek Valley, which is a roaring mountain stream, down through rebuilt company towns such as Barthell, Kentucky and Blue Heron, Kentucky. Barthell and Blue Heron were both part of the Stearns Company and were both operated up until the 1950s, and Blue Heron actually operated up until the early 1960s. Barthell has been rebuilt by the Koger family as a private entity, and the Blue Heron site is owned and operated by the National Park Service as part of the Big South Fork National River and Recreation Area. It takes the train about 40 minutes to get to Blue Heron, and then once we get there, if you've purchased a regular ticket to go to Blue Heron, we usually let the visitor walk around for about an hour to an hour and a half and explore things at their own pace. It's a self-guided tour amongst what we choose to call ghost structures. They're not real buildings, they're representations of what was once there, so that you can actually go in and listen to oral history tapes where the Park Service has interviewed the people who actually used to live there and work there. And they tell their story about Blue Heron much better than any of us ever could. Actually, you're going to go back in the past and listen to true ghosts in some cases. They will tell you things that you've never thought about living and working in a mining camp. Also at Blue Heron, we have a gift shop, a concession stand, and picnic shelter. and usually more live music while you're at Blue Heron. If you choose to go to Barthell, the Barthell experience includes a guided tour of a completely rebuilt mining town with true representations of what the buildings were. All of them are reproductions. None of the original buildings survived from the original Barthell town. They also offer overnight accommodations and some rebuilt miners' cabins. They have a restaurant and a company store and several gift shops there as well. After you've toured the town of your choice, you can reboard the train and come back here to Stearns for about another 40-minute trip. The total trip time on our average is about 3 hours. Once you get back to Stearns, we still have several opportunities for you to explore the town. There's the Stearns Museum, or as it's called now, the McCreary County Museum at Stearns, which occupies the old office building of the Stearns Coal and Lumber Company. It's right across the street from the railroad depot. They have a vast collection of memorabilia from this era, from typical Appalachian life in southern Kentucky, and several artifacts centering around the Stearns Coal and Lumber Company. Also, in the old company stores here in town, there are several gift shops, craft shops, and whatnot shops. It's really neat to go in and explore and see actually what's there. You might find something that a miner may have carried into the mines in 1920. But anyways, there's a lot of things to see here and do, both here at the railroad and in Stearns. And if you're the outdoorsy type, the Big South Fork Park offers all kinds of things such as horseback riding, camping, fishing, hunting, just a multitude of outdoor things to see and do. And we're really not that well known here. A lot of people know of things north of us such as Cumberland Falls or Renfro Valley, not that far away. And on the south end we have the Museum of Appalachia, and further on down, Knoxville and Gatlinburg. Gatlinburg is a large tourist mecca. Actually, it's outgrown itself, and there's a lot of people that are looking for something different to do. We here in McCreary County, Kentucky feel that we have something that the visitor wants in coming back and experiencing our coal mining heritage here in southern Appalachia. And if you want to get away from it all, come back, have a really pleasant day. We encourage you to come here today.
My name is Donna Levon, and I have been singing for about 35 years, since I was a kid. I've been playing guitar for about 30 years. I enjoy playing a lot of different types of music, but mainly I'm a traditionalist. I stick with bluegrass, country, and gospel.
Barbara. This is my sister Kathy, and we have Sweet Creations Gift Shop and Fudgery here in the Big South Fork Scenic Railway Train Depot, and we sell a lot of different flavors of homemade fudge. We also have sugar-free. We have several nice gifts to choose from, and a lot of Kentucky handmade crafts.
We started our business 3 years ago, and we started out with a booth in the hallway, and this is our 3rd year to be here, and we've expanded and now have the fudge and the other gift things that we have. You know how each of them.
Like Andy, what does it Andy say? Wasteful, wasteful.
Shane, do you want some rocks?
Bears, not
Yeah.
I've never seen women scatter like that.
That's for the video.
I never looked so busy in my whole life. Didn't we get some kind of...
Yeah, she's what, the quarter pound of the chocolate or the pumpkin? I just hope we can sit in on the editing. Cut.
Okay. Quarter pound of the Snickers fudge.
I want to buy the train on it.
I'm Vina New. I sell tickets here in the gift shop. I have worked for the railroad for 4 years. We have been in this building for 3 years. This is no building that has been restored, and we extended our tracks up here, moved our ticket office up here. We have a lot more room. We've got a beautiful building. We have a wonderful ride on the train.
Thanks, Melinda.
Are you doing sound?
Bag lunches for tomorrow for the coal miners.
Michigan in search of timberland for his family's company, the Stearns Lumber Company. He found the timber here in southern Kentucky and purchased 30,000 acres here and right across the state line into northern Tennessee, and moved the Stearns Lumber Company here, building the town of Stearns here in 1902 as the new corporate headquarters for the company. Shortly after the construction of the town of Stearns, which was a company owned their attention to coal mining, changing their name from the Stearns Lumber Company to the Stearns Coal and Lumber Company. They expanded their holdings out to 200 square miles, employing over 2,200 people. These people lived here in Stearns and in
In 1962, this mine, just like Barthell earlier, was shut down by the coal company, the Stearns Company. And as Barthell went the way of a ghost town, so did Blue Heron. If you come in here in the late 60s and early 1970s, that's what you would have found here, a ghost town, where the buildings haven't been taken out to use elsewhere or just going into disrepair. 1974, as I mentioned earlier, this place became a part of the Big South Fork National River and Recreation Area. Park Service, along with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, came in to commemorate the people who lived and worked down here at this site. This is a monument not to buildings. These buildings behind us are replicas. This is a monument to people, their life, the hardships they suffered, the rural life, and that's why we have the audio tapes. Around Blue Heron and each of the buildings that we've recreated here, there are audio stations inside that have oral histories of real people who lived and worked at Blue Heron, and they give their story better than anybody else. So one of the unique features for train riders who come in on the Big South Fork Scenic Railway or visitors who just drive in on the road is you can touch base with real people here at Blue Heron by utilizing the audio buttons on each of these ghost structures like you see behind me, and there are various others around this town. And you'll hear words of real people talk about what it was like really and truly at Blue Heron. And they tell their story better than somebody else. So I think that's a unique feature of Blue Heron, and that's why I think it is so popular. It really is a place where real people had lived and worked, and that's their story, and that really is why it is important, I think, in our nation's cultural heritage.
Candle wicking is a really simple process. All you do is
You can put mold it.
yeah.
For the Christmas ornament. She's baked cornbread.
Oh, look at that.
We're coming down for supper.
Oh, my goodness.
She's got cornbread and beans, and she's got squash, butternut squash.
This is candles. She's making candles.
They're made from beeswax.
I see. Just cut it in half. You got two.
I don't have no more strings to use, but
Do that. And keep doing that.
How to crochet.
until it's
This is a typical rifle that could have been found on the Kentucky frontier, say in the 1770s. A fellow like Daniel Boone would have felt right at home with a rifle like this in his hands. These guns were originally made in western Pennsylvania and western and southern parts of Virginia. And of course those fellows from Virginia and North Carolina drifted into Kentucky and Tennessee during that period of time. They were the long hunters. Not because of the long rifle, but because of the long hunting trips they were going on. Sometimes 3 to 4 months at a time, maybe longer, these extended hunting trips. But their primary weapon was what I call the American long rifle. It has some slight variations, but this is the basic design. A long barrel to produce good burning of the powder, produce a slightly more accurate shot. It's a muzzle loader, because you load it from the muzzle. It's a flintlock, because this part here, the lock mechanism, actually has a piece of flint, strikes the steel here, that produces the spark that ignites the powder. So this is a flintlock long rifle. Loading it is pretty simple, about a 3-step process. Since it is a muzzle loader, we have to load it from here. We have a powder measure, actually with a predetermined amount of powder in it. Well, you get a careful, accurate shot. You know exactly how that rifle is going to react every time by producing the same amount of force and power on the bullet each time. Put that in the muzzle of the gun. Now you may see in some old movie of somebody taking a powder horn and turning it up over the end of the barrel. There's a couple of reasons they wouldn't do that. One, you're only guessing at how much powder you put in. The other thing is, you might not be able to control it if there's a spark in the barrel. What would happen if you put all that raw powder right in there? You'd have a huge conflagration. We're going to take a cloth patch and actually put over the end of the barrel. Now normally at this stage you would take a round lead ball, which I have one right here. Take the round lead ball and you would normally place that over the cloth patch. The patch would be greased with bear grease or beef tallow to lubricate and seal the barrel. But in this case, for safety reasons, we'll just use the patch alone. Still give us kind of the same effect. The patch will help seat the powder down in the barrel. Turn the ramrod. We're halfway through the loading process. This little device is called the pan. Now sometimes you can have something called a flash in the pan. We have ignition of the powder here, but no ignition of the powder in the barrel. So a flash in the pan is a lot of smoke and promise, and then it fizzles out to nothing. We also want to prime it by putting a little bit of powder right in here in the pan. Make sure you recap the horn so you don't have any stray sparks going in there. And we're essentially ready to go. Now, 3 things will happen when I actually fire. I'll pull back to the full cock position and release the trigger. The cock will come forward with the flint. The flint will strike the steel, forcing it forward. The spark will jump into the pan and ignite the powder there. And then a split second later, we should hear an explosion as the powder inside the barrel goes off. I'm going to show you kind of how that works and give you a count of 3 so you can sort of be ready for it. All right, 1, 2, 3. See that it is effective. It does actually work. Of course, as I mentioned, some things can go wrong. You can have a flash in the pan and no ignition of the powder in the barrel. You could have a weak spark where the flint is dull and it doesn't produce an accurate spark. Or the worst thing is a hang fire. If your powder has drawn dampness, you could actually have a flash in the pan here, but a delayed firing of the powder in the barrel. And that's particularly dangerous because it catches you off guard. You can let your rifle come off target and the muzzle might be pointed in some direction that wasn't safe. This rifle does have kind of a safety feature called the half-cock position. At this position, the rifle should not fire, making it safer to load and to work around. Just like a person that goes off half-cocked, a rifle that goes off half-cocked is very dangerous indeed. This is the type of rifle that tamed the Kentucky-Tennessee frontier in the 1770s to the 1790s. It's the American long rifle. Right.